Awakening to reality. The Buddha's answer to suffering. Every great spiritual tradition begins with a first word, a declaration of what matters most. And that first word reveals everything about what the tradition truly sees. So if someone woke up, fully, completely, and saw the entire nature of reality as it is, what would they say first? We'd expect something about the cosmos, the divine, the soul, the meaning of existence. Something grand enough to match the occasion. After 6 years of relentless searching, through the luxury of a prince's life and the deprivation of an ascetic's, Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath a tree and saw through the entire structure of the mind's suffering. He became the Buddha, the awakened one. We might imagine what came next would be something radiant. A revelation about the divine. A cosmic truth that would shake the ground. Perhaps a glimpse of some transcendent light that would finally explain why we are here. That is what people tend to hope for when they hear the word awakening. But what the Buddha actually did was walk to a deer park, sit down in front of 5 men, and in his very first teaching, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, declare, "Monks, this is the noble truth of suffering." Suffering. Of all the things an awakened one could have chosen to teach the world, that was what he spoke about. And throughout 45 years of teaching, when asked what his teaching really comes down to, the Buddha's answer never changed. He told a monk named Anuruddha, "Both formerly and now, I teach only suffering and the cessation of suffering." 45 years. One subject. Why would someone who had seen the full nature of reality keep returning to the one thing everybody wants to avoid? There has to be a reason. And it can't be pessimism. This is also the man who claimed to have found the end of suffering. So something else is happening. Something most people miss. Because they hear suffering and assume they already know what it means. What if they don't? When people hear that the Buddha taught life is suffering, the reaction is predictable. That's pessimistic. That's negative. Why would I follow something that tells me life is terrible? Fair enough. If the Buddha simply meant life has a lot of pain in it, he wasn't saying anything a 5-year-old doesn't already know. So either he was stating the obvious, unlikely for someone remembered as one of the sharpest minds in history, or he meant something the English word suffering fails to capture. The word he used was dukkha. It has no clean equivalent in modern languages. Suffering is the common translation and also the most misleading. A closer sense, a fundamental unsatisfactoriness, an incompleteness woven into the texture of all conditioned experience. Not just the sharp edge of tragedy, but a quiet, persistent sense that something isn't quite settled, even when everything looks fine. The Buddha described dukkha on 3 levels. Dukkha, pain that is obviously pain. Loss, sickness, grief. Everyone recognizes this. No awakening required. And this is where most people stop when they hear the word. They assume this is the whole message. Viparinama dukkha, the unsettledness hidden inside change. Not the pain of losing something, but the instability right in the middle of having it. The happiest moment of our lives, right as we live it, is already slipping away. Not someday, now. That perfect evening, that embrace, that sense of everything being right, each second of it is already becoming the past. And somewhere underneath the happiness, so quiet we barely notice, there's a faint tightening, a whisper of holding on. Sankhara dukkha, the deepest level, and the one the Buddha was really pointing at. the unsatisfactoriness of conditioned existence itself. Even when nothing hurts, even when nothing is being lost, the sheer fact that everything must be constantly maintained, constantly dependent on conditions to keep existing, carries a baseline unease. We know this feeling. Everything in our lives is fine, nothing is missing, and yet something underneath refuses to settle. That restlessness isn't because we lack something. It is the nature of everything that depends on conditions. So when the Buddha said there is dukkha, he wasn't declaring life to be miserable. He was describing the nature of reality with surgical precision. The place where we keep looking for lasting completeness cannot structurally provide it. Not because it's broken, because everything there is impermanent, conditioned, with nothing solid to grip. And we suffer not because reality is cruel, but because we keep asking it to be something it is not. Now, someone familiar with the suttas might push back here. In that very first sermon, the Buddha was quite direct. Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, sickness is suffering, death is suffering, sorrow and lamentation are suffering, association with the unpleasant is suffering, separation from the pleasant is suffering, not getting what one wants is suffering. He listed them one by one. Concrete, undeniable human experiences. That sounds exactly like saying life itself is suffering. He did say that, word for word, but he didn't stop there. He closed that entire passage with a single line, and this line is the key to the whole teaching. In brief, the five aggregates subject to clinging are suffering. Sankitena pankupadana kanda dukkha. The five aggregates subject to clinging, not the five aggregates by themselves. The word that shifts everything is upadana, clinging. It introduces a condition. Birth is suffering when met with clinging. Aging is suffering when met with clinging. Death is suffering when met with clinging. The proof is the Buddha's own life after awakening. He didn't stop aging. He wasn't immune to illness. The Mahaparinibbana Sutta records his final days in detail. Back pain, severe illness, physical deterioration. He went through every single item on his own list, but he was not suffering. The conditions were all there. The suffering was not, because the clinging had ended. If life itself were inherently suffering, regardless of the mind's relationship to it, then even a fully awakened Buddha could not have been free. The aging didn't stop. What stopped was the mind's way of meeting the aging. This is the precision of the diagnosis. Suffering arises when the mind meets experience with clinging rooted in ignorance. Remove that, and birth is still birth, aging is still aging, death is still death. Reality doesn't change, but suffering is gone. Which raises the real question. If suffering lives not in life, but in how the mind relates to reality, what exactly is the mind getting wrong? The Buddha's word for the root cause is avidya, usually translated as ignorance. And like suffering for dukkha, the translation is accurate and misleading at the same time. We hear ignorance and think not knowing enough, a gap in information, something fixable with the right book. That is not what avidya means. Avidya is a misperception of reality. The mind isn't blank. It's actively constructing a picture. But the picture is distorted, like wearing lenses that warp everything. We don't notice the warping because we've never taken the lenses off. We assume what we see is reality. That unquestioned confidence in a distorted picture, that is avidya. And this is where avidya connects to the second noble truth. In the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the Buddha identified the direct origin of suffering as tanha, craving, thirst, the relentless wanting that drives us from one experience to the next. But craving doesn't appear from nowhere. It is born from misperception. Because we see things as permanent, as capable of completing us, as belonging to a solid self, we crave. And because we crave, we suffer. Misperception feeds craving. Craving feeds suffering. That is the causal chain, not a cosmic punishment, but a sequence anyone can observe in their own mind right now. The distortion operates on three fronts: anicca, impermanence. Everything is in motion right now. The emotion we're feeling has already shifted since this sentence began. The people we love are not the same people they were last week. Our bodies have changed since this morning, but we live as though things hold still. We plan, we grip, we invest, all on the assumption that conditions will remain. They never do. Dukkha at the structural level. Since everything is impermanent, every attempt to hold on to it as though it were permanent has failure already sewn into it. Not because we picked the wrong things, because gripping is not how we relate to something that's flowing. We can close a fist around water in a river. The river doesn't stop. Anatta, non-self. No fixed, unchanging entity stands at the center of our experience. There is experience, thoughts, emotions, sensations, perceptions in continuous flow, but no permanent director behind the curtain. The Buddha rejected both the belief in an eternal soul and the belief that death is total annihilation. His position, the middle way, is that there is a process that continues, but no fixed thing that the process belongs to. Like a flame burning through the night, continuous, real. But the flame at midnight is not the same flame that was burning at dusk. Yet we live each day as though a solid, unchanging me sits at the center of everything, needing protection, needing satisfaction, needing the world to be arranged a certain way. That sense of solid selfhood is where most clinging is born. Here is what matters most in this entire discussion. We already know all three of these things. We know everything is impermanent. We've known it since childhood. We know clinging leads to disappointment. We've lived it. And if we're honest, we sense that the self we take to be so solid is actually far more fluid than it appears. We've looked at who we were 10 years ago and barely recognized that person. We have all three pieces, and yet we live as though we have none of them. We still cling to things as though they'll last. We still react to criticism as though a permanent self is under siege. We still chase the next experience hoping this one will finally hold. Because there is an enormous difference between knowing about fire and touching fire. One is a concept stored in memory. The other is immediate, undeniable, and it rewires behavior permanently. That gap between knowing about impermanence and perceiving impermanence in real time, in our own experience, is precisely the distance between ignorance and awakening. The Buddha didn't teach anything nobody knows. He taught how to see reality as it actually is, not as the mind habitually paints it. Follow the logic through. We have followed the chain all the way down. Misperception gives rise to craving. Craving gives rise to suffering. If that causal sequence is accurate, and anyone can test it in their own experience, then the solution is already implied. If the cause of suffering is a wrong way of seeing, then the end of suffering must be seeing reality as it actually is. Not a better set of circumstances, not a reward from outside, a correction at the root. This is the third noble truth, Nibbāna, cessation. Suffering can end, not theoretically, not in the afterlife, as a real transformation in how the mind perceives. And once we see this, we also see why every alternative falls short. Not because those alternatives are worthless, but because they don't reach this particular route. Improving circumstances doesn't work. We've all tested it. We've reached goals, gotten what we wanted, arranged conditions closer to ideal, and the satisfaction faded. Not because the achievement was hollow, because the mechanism generating dissatisfaction was untouched. The outer world changed. The inner pattern didn't. Moral perfection doesn't work on its own. We can live a disciplined, virtuous life and still cling. Still fear death. Still feel that quiet unease underneath. Ethics addresses behavior. The Buddha was addressing the perception that drives behavior. In his framework, morality flows from awakening rather than producing it. Someone who sees the interconnection of all things doesn't try to be compassionate. Compassion is simply what arises when the illusion of separateness dissolves. More knowledge doesn't work. We already have the right ideas. We already agree, intellectually, with impermanence. It changes nothing. The gap isn't informational. It's perceptual. So if better circumstances can't end suffering, if moral discipline alone can't end it, if knowledge can't end it, what can? Only one thing: awakening. Seeing reality directly, as it actually is, without the distortion of ignorance. And the Buddha had a name for what happens when that seeing is complete: Nibbāna. Most people imagine it as some kind of spiritual oblivion, a blissful nothingness, or an escape to another realm, or a permanent trance beyond the reach of pain. None of that is what the Buddha described. He explicitly rejected annihilation. He never spoke of Nibbāna as a place to go. And any state, no matter how blissful, is impermanent by nature. So it cannot be the final answer. Nibbāna is simply the cessation of the cause. When misperception stops, clinging loses its basis. When clinging loses its basis, suffering has no fuel. The fire goes out, not because someone extinguished it, but because there was nothing left to burn. What remains is not emptiness. What remains is reality, perceived clearly, perhaps for the first time. Now we can finally answer the opening question. Why did the Buddha start with suffering? Because suffering is the only door that leads to reality. When we run from suffering, we reach for something that masks the unease. Pleasure, busyness, achievement, even spiritual experience. It works briefly. Then the suffering returns, because we treated the symptom, not the cause. Suffering is not the enemy. It is the signal. It is the one honest thing in the system. The thing that keeps saying, the way we are seeing is costing us. Cover it, numb it, explain it away, and we lose the only thread that could lead us to the root. The deepest sleep is not ignorance itself. It is the effort to escape suffering. Because that effort is what keeps the entire cycle spinning. Misperception breeds craving. Craving breeds suffering. Suffering drives us to escape. The escape brings temporary relief, and the relief allows the misperception to settle back in, unnoticed, until the next round begins. The cycle breaks when we stop running, turn around, look at the suffering with steady attention. That turning, that willingness to face what we've been avoiding, is the first crack in the cycle, the first moment of waking up. The Buddha taught 4 truths, not one. There is suffering. There is a cause. There is an end. There is a path. This is not pessimism. It is the most radical form of hope. The cause of our suffering is not fate, not punishment, not built into the fabric of existence. It is a condition. and conditions can change. The Buddha's answer to how is the Noble Eightfold Path. The first thing to understand, it is not a set of commandments, no authority handing down rules, no punishment for disobedience. It is a training, precise, carefully structured, designed to close the gap between knowing about reality and seeing reality directly. 3 dimensions: sila, samadhi, paññā. Ethics, concentration, wisdom. Sila, ethical conduct, comes first for an entirely practical reason. Think of a time we lied to someone, a real lie, one that mattered. Notice what happened in the mind afterward. The agitation, the planning, the covering. Now imagine trying, with that churning mind, to observe anything clearly. We can't. Ethics isn't about earning merit. It calms the storm so that deeper observation becomes possible, like stilling the surface of a lake so we can see the bottom. Samadhi, concentration, refines the instrument. In ordinary life, the mind jumps from thought to desire to memory to worry, rarely resting anywhere. In that scattered state, the subtle characteristics of reality are invisible, not because they're hidden, but because the mind is too noisy to notice. Meditation trains the mind to become collected, present, stable, not blank, gathered, so that when we look, we can actually see. Paññā, wisdom, is the destination, not wisdom as accumulated knowledge, direct perception. Seeing impermanence not as a concept, but as something happening right now in the body. Seeing clinging not as theory, but as a pattern we catch in real time. Seeing the absence of a fixed self not as philosophy, but as what we actually find when we look carefully. That direct perception is what dissolves ignorance, not by arguing against it, but by seeing through it. The way we see through a mirage. Once we see the water on the road isn't water, we don't need to convince ourselves. The illusion simply falls away. These 3 dimensions don't form a staircase where one must be completed before the next begins. They support each other continuously. Meditation makes ethical living easier because a settled mind is less reactive. Ethical living makes meditation deeper because the mind isn't churning with regret. Wisdom feeds back into both, because the clearer we see, the more naturally we live without causing harm, and the stiller the mind becomes. We begin wherever we are. So, what does beginning actually look like? 1 breath, observed fully. Not a special breath. The breath happening right now. The actual physical sensation of air moving through the body. In that moment of bare attention, before the mind labels, judges, reaches, something quiet happens. The adding stops. And in that gap, however brief, there is no clinging. Where there is no clinging, there is no suffering. Where there is no suffering, reality is being perceived without distortion. It lasts a second, maybe less. Then the mind starts again. That's expected. The point is not to hold the state. The point is that in that one moment, the gap between knowing and seeing closed. Ignorance thinned by 1 layer, and that layer does not come back. This is awakening in everyday life. Seeing anger as anger before acting on it. Seeing anxiety as anxiety before being swept away. Seeing a beautiful moment as a beautiful moment, without the reflex to grip it, to make it stay. Each time this happens, even briefly, That is awakening unfolding. And this is what the Buddha's own life after awakening showed us. Awakening doesn't remove us from the world. It returns us to the world, with open eyes and a heart no longer clenched. His last words, recorded in the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, were not a promise of paradise. They were an instruction. All conditioned things are of a nature to decay. Work out your liberation with diligence. He started with suffering, because suffering is where we all already stand. He didn't promise to take us somewhere else. He pointed out something far more radical. Right here, in this breath, this feeling, this unremarkable moment, reality is fully present. It always has been. The only thing between us and it is the habit of not looking. Everything in this video has been the finger pointing at the moon. The moon has to be seen with your own eyes. Ehipassiko. Come and see. Not come and believe. Not come and be saved. Come and see. Test it yourself. Look at your own mind. Observe your own suffering. Trace it to its root. You don't need to change your religion. You don't need to call yourself a Buddhist. You don't need to believe a single word you've heard today. Just be willing, for one breath, to stop running and start seeing. Right here, right now. That is where it begins.